So for maybe during emergencies, you might find objects that might maybe affect our disaster responders as they respond. Here we have our life jackets. This one mostly we go with them during flood incidents. Whenever we want to rescue those who are maybe trapped, they need our disaster responders to maybe evacuate them to the safe zone. Mostly we carry at least an extra one for the person that we rescue, so that at this time it's safer for also the person that we rescue to be able to move to the other side. Then on top here, the safety shoes that I've mentioned, there is the rescue rope. It's a firm rescue rope that is also used to rescue those who are on the other side. So it is firmly tied by our divers. You've seen the diving suits. And these diving suits are used by our divers who are trained by Kenya Red Cross. And this diver ties it on the other end and this other end of maybe a flooded area, so that this person can be able to use the rope also to move through to the other end.
I mean, we've been seeing, you know, for the first time, we've been seeing people trying to rescue people on the other side of the river, you know, using all manner of ropes.
Yes.
Are you allowed to use whatever rope is around you?
No, it's not just a rope. It's a firm rope that...
this is nylon?
Nylon, yes. Mostly we tie knots that can be able to firmly be held by the person we are rescuing. Yeah. From the other end to this other end, which is the safe zone. So these have to be firm, because we cannot assume at this moment to have any kind of rope, because any kind of rope, that rope might maybe cut at the middle of the flooded area. So it has to be very firm, and it is always assessed before we even leave the base, and the base is our office where we are deployed from. Then down here you can see our trauma kit. This is a medical bag. So this trauma bag is also carried along, because at times you never know what kind of situation this person is in. So sometimes you find out that there are those that have pre-existing conditions. So we try as much as possible to carry them along. And mostly for our disaster responders, they are trained to manage pre-hospital care. So mostly this is well equipped, because we call it an advanced bag. It has most of the equipment, as you can see. I think that's much that I can mention.
So what is in these rescue kits?
As you can see, there is gloves.
These are the normal gloves that we use?
Normal gloves, latex gloves. And then we have sanitary towel. Mostly, many people forget this side of the health aspect. We might go to respond, and you know, there are those that are felt with trauma because of the incident that has occurred. So in this case, you never know what might happen. Things happen. So we have to carry it so that we just be safe, that we can be able to manage the other person that needs our support.
I can see you have intravenous fluids.
Yes.
What do you use this for?
This, in most cases, you find out that in advanced medical, maybe someone was being rescued. And in the process, we find out that this person has been bleeding for quite some time, because you find out that in most cases, we even experience some collapsed structures. Maybe a house that was hosting this person we are rescuing has gone down because of the impact of the floods or the flash floods. So during this period, this person has bled for quite some time. We have to monitor that. And with that, some of these normal saline or the water for injections are used in this time.
Good.
Yes.
What do you use in terms of rescuing people from... I mean, we've seen this from other countries. Some people use, you know, in other countries you see sniffer dogs being deployed. You see inflatable boats. You see helicopters. Have we got into that level in Kenya?
Yes, we have gotten into that level. And this is where now we introduce the multi-agency aspect of disaster operations. And we as Kenya Red Cross might have a certain limit in terms of our capacity in terms of resources.
What is your capacity as Red Cross?
Our capacity as Red Cross is, I know we have the advanced rescue where we have most of our disaster responders are trained in a diverse level of managing incidents. And this comes in terms of a search and rescue operation. We have the medical aspect where we manage the wash aspect. There is the relief aspect where we also do interventions. We have, in terms of diving, in terms of managing flood-related incidents. So in terms of equipment, we might be able to have some of those that can be able to be used. But whenever we are not able to manage, we call upon stakeholders. And this is why you will find out like the Disaster Response Battalion, headed by the military team. We have the government itself might have equipments like maybe the excavators that can be used in this time of the operation. And mostly I've seen we have a boat that we also use in operation. But now when it comes to maybe the planes, this we have to stretch our hands to the other stakeholders to be able to come on board. So,
have you seen a situation whereby we've used the services of life-saving helicopters in Kenya in the floods?
Yes, we have been able, like for instance, you have seen that one in, was it in McQueen, where there is this kid that was marooned, and we had to call upon the disaster team from the Kenya Army, who came in with the helicopters. So it reaches a point where these people have to come in. We can't forgo that.
So you have to bring in the military for assistance. Help me understand this. I mean, you know, as a country, we have the National Disaster Management Unit, which is under the Ministry of Interior. From where you stand or from where you sit, do you believe it is well capacitated to deal with emerging threats of calamities?
I cannot maybe mention their level of expertise, but I can concur...
But from your interaction with them?
Yes, I can concur that in most cases we have responded with them. And mostly we have really coordinated well. Because...
Do they have the necessary tools?
I cannot maybe give that per se, because, you know, they have a department of their own. We haven't had that much interaction. And from my observation, in terms of the scene coordination, yes, I can assure you that in the level that we have been able to coordinate with them, we have really appreciated their effort in a certain level.
I mean, you are the, let me get you right. I mean, you are the disaster officer in charge of Red Cross here in Nairobi. I mean, and we have seen and witnessed so many calamities, from collapsing buildings to fire incidences, and of course the issues of flooding, to terrorist act. And I know you have been involved in a number of rescue operations. What would you say has always been the striking challenge in all these rescue efforts?
Mostly, what I can say is the time we use in coordination with the stakeholders. From our end, I know we need to work on the time we use to respond to our community. And that one has been a call from our informal area where we respond. And this calls upon streamlining our coordination. That is the multi-agency aspect of coordination. Because at times we feel like we reach at a level where everyone looks at one direction. And in that direction, we find out that it's Red Cross that is being seen coordinating. But now when we talk about disaster operation, it's not something that is held by one firm or one department or one stakeholder. It has to be a culmination of many other agencies who can be able to support us to be able to strengthen our response action. And this, when we strengthen our multi-agency coordination, it will be very easy for us to timely respond to our emergencies. And as Kenya Red Cross, we have tried as much as possible to make this done. And that's why you have seen, in most cases, we are on time. at the scene. But we don't want it to be only Kenya Red Cross that is seen at the scene, at the first ones at the scene. We want also to bring on board these other agencies that might be able to strengthen this capacity. Because, for instance, the cases that you have seen of recent that have been experienced, like
floodings.
With floods. For instance, Mathare, it was widely affected. And this one led us to bringing on board many other stakeholders. And we can assure we have had many people coming on board, like the wilderness divers who came in on board to support us. So we find out that strengthening our capacity in terms of multi-agency coordination will bring that a score towards our disaster operation. That is the gap that can.
You know, before I allow you to take a breather, I mean, I just want to take you back to 1965 when the act that established the Kenya Red Cross Societies Act came into force. And this is an institution that has been there for all that long.
Yes.
And over time, you know, the Kenya Red Cross has become the face of rescue operations in Kenya. Is that the way it's supposed to be?
Not really.
How is it supposed to be?
It needs to be streamlined to other aspects of what I've just mentioned. The coordination aspect of other agencies that have similar interest in disaster operation. And this is why we are calling upon all the disaster-related stakeholders to have one house where we can be able to coordinate with one voice. So that, because for Kenya Red Cross, we shine because for the longest time, we have streamlined our coordination network. By this, we are felt within the community because we have most of our people within the community, and we have diversely ensured that they are also brought on board and they feel us because of our objective to alleviate human suffering.
Very good. I just want you to take a breather. We'll be touching base later on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed, Kevin, for taking us through that process. Well, I just told you that you are watching Inside Government. We are live from Broadcasting House. My name is O'Brien Kimani, and I'm in the company of officials from the Kenya Red Cross. I mean, they have become the face of disaster response in the country, and they will be helping us understand where do we need to tie the loose ends and the coordination that is needed, and of course the facilitation in terms of budget as well as human capacity. You're watching BizCheck. I mean, not BizCheck, but Inside Government, live from Broadcasting House. I just want to take you through some of the guests that we have. We have Zakaria Misani. He's a climate change scientist working with the Kenya Red Cross. He'll be explaining to us what is the nexus between climate change and the disasters that we have seen, from droughts to floodings. Thank you very much, Misani.
Yeah, thank you so much, O'Brien Kimani, for having me here to KBC. This is the benefit of the vulnerable communities who have been affected outside there.
Very good.
So when we are talking about the issue of...
I just want you to hold it up there. You know, I'll be bringing you on board so that you can give us more perspective.
Thank you.
And then we have Christine Morioki, who is the Human Resources and Administration Manager at Kenya Red Cross. Thank you very much, Morioki.
Thank you very much for having us here.
Very good. You'll be helping us to understand, you know, the human resources aspect of disaster response.
Yes.
Asante sana. And just next to my left, we have Zipporah Kerubo. She's the Volunteer and Membership Management Coordinator. Did I get it right?
Yes, correct.
Very good.
Thank you for having me.
Very much indeed, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Very good. And next to Kerubo, we have Kevin Gereso. He's a Public Health Manager at Kenya Red Cross. It's full house. Thank you for joining us, Vincent.
Thank you.
I mean, not Vincent, but Kevin.
Kevin, yes.
Yeah, very good. So I just want to start with Zachary Misiani. I mean, you are bringing in the aspect of climate change and the ensuing calamity of flooding. And I just want to quote President William Ruto. He says, this is becoming the new normal. It's not going to get better. It's likely to get worse. Can you help us understand the climate change and the flooding in Msambweni?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. Remember, we are a developing country, and also when it comes to the to the extremes of this issue which we are talking about, the weather, we should know that more than 70% of the natural disasters is as a result of the extremes of weather. That means that going forward, we are likely to see the intensity, the magnitude, and also the frequency of these hazards going to multiply. For example, remember from last year, that is from the October, November, December, we were experiencing the enhanced rainfall as a result of the El Nino phenomena. And also, even we have not recovered from what happened from last year. Now here in 2024, also we have witnessed the heavy rainfall because of the other systems which are affecting the weather patterns. And also don't forget, from the 2020 to 2022, we were coming from a 50-fade rain season, whereby because of another phenomenon known as the La Nina phenomena, we experienced one of the worst drought in the history of Kenya. That's about, if you compare the historical records, that's about 4 decades ago. And also don't forget that we were coming again from 2018, the rising of the Rift Valley lakes, which we have never witnessed. And you saw that the most heavy investment in terms of tourism were affected because we were just around the lake. And also don't forget that we were coming from what we call the outbreak of the desert locust, whereby from the historical, they were saying that the last desert outbreak appeared 60 years ago. Those are about the 60 decades ago. And also don't forget that from 2010, 2011, we had also another worst drought, whereby we had what we call the Kenyans for Kenya. So you can be able to see that when we are moving from one climate disaster, even if before we fully recover, we go to another phase of that
It is disaster. Becoming a recurring phenomenon.
Yeah, and remember, we are not yet end of the long rain season, which is supposed to end during this month. This is the month of the May, whereby we are likely to see the cessation of the rainfall. But from the predictions, whereby the Kenya Met Department is already saying that some parts of the country will continue having those rainfall. That means that the impacts which already we have been experiencing will be there until we go to the next, that is the cold season, which is June, July, August. Before now we come in the short rain seasons. Yeah.
Very good. Help me understand this. I mean, we have all been hearing about this conversation around climate change, you know, from the Conference of Parties. And of course, this December is going to take place in Azerbaijan. And we have always felt that, you know, the conversations taking place on climate change, you know, they are far off from the local communities, but now it is becoming a reality. How need to get ourselves prepared to deal with the various calamities that will be coming our way because of climate change?
Yeah, thank you so much also for pointing out that. Remember also, I forgot to mention about the issue of the tropical cyclones. Remember, tropical cyclones is also, from observation during this period already, we have witnessed about 11 to 12 tropical cyclones in the Indian Ocean. And also these are some of the systems which might disrupt even the weather patterns which we are experiencing here. Like from last week, we had the recent one, tropical cyclone Idaya, which made a landfall in our neighboring country. And also in terms of the climate change, remember the most developed countries are the most polluters, because remember we are releasing a lot of toxic gases to the atmosphere known as the greenhouse gases, whereby they are warming the atmosphere. The warmer the atmosphere is, the more intensive disasters we are likely to encounter. The ocean is becoming warmer because we have released too much gases to the atmosphere. These greenhouse gases usually do not allow the inlet of the escaping long-wave radiation. That's why the global is becoming warmer and warmer and warmer. So going forward, you know, we cannot, we cannot stop the droughts happening, but it's how can we adapt so that we can live during that period of drought so that we can see another day. For example, heavy rainfall, you cannot stop it, but you can minimize the negative impacts. For example, if you see a forecast is saying that we are likely to have heavy rainfall, let's say from early in the morning, so it's you to make some early actions, like let me just wake up early, like 1 hour, so that at least to avoid that long term of staying in the on road. Very good.
I just want to hear this from Kevin. I mean, as a person in charge of public health, it's Kenya Red Cross. When you look at our public health institutions, are they well equipped, prepared to handle issues of disaster?
Yeah, so one thing that we have to note, and I will just connect to what my colleague indicated, it is very critical for us to make use of climate and weather information to be able to prepare and plan for some of the health eventualities that might come because of these climate change issues. If you look at our health system in the country, we have a very good network at the community level through the community health volunteers. That gives us almost more than 90% coverage of health workforce at the community level. So if we can be able to utilize this workforce using the information we are getting from Kenya Met and other climate centers, then we can be able to prepare ourselves adequately. Because if you look at the health issues within the country, they're sort of tagged to our climate trends, our weather trends. For example, we all know that during rains, long rains, that we are likely to have diarrhea-related diseases. We are likely to have, vector-borne diseases, including malaria. Some areas would have Rift Valley fever. So it's a trend that will always be there. During drought, you'll see, increased cases of malnutrition and all that. So if we can be able to use this information, because if you look at what Kenya Met Department, the information they push out there, you'll see that they would indicate how long the rain is likely to happen, which counties are likely to receive a lot of these rains. So it's only for us to be able to, as a sector within the health sector, to use that information and see how we can prepare ourselves to mitigate any health impact that these floods is likely to come with.
And I just like the fact that you're bringing in the issue of the various alerts issued by the Kenya Met Department. And for the longest time, Kenyans did not have faith in Kenya Meteorological Department. I mean, they used to think it's a question of pata-potea. But for now, Kenyans are starting to sit back and say, wait a minute, the Met said we're going to have floodings. We've seen it. The Met said we are going to go through a dry spell. It is happening here. And what we do not understand is that the Kenya Meteorological Department is one of the most advanced Met departments in Africa. I think actually it is number 3 after the South African Met Department and the Egyptian one. But I can just confirm that. So how then do we need to be listening to Met Department and using that information to work out on our preparedness?
Yeah, so I'll talk of the health sector specific preparedness. Like I indicated, our health issues, to a very large extent, are tagged to the weather and the climate trends. Kenya Met has been very gracious to be sending out these alerts. They send within government departments, also send this information out to the public.
Why say gracious? I mean, that's what they are supposed to do.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for that correction.
Yeah.
So it's therefore important for us to be able to do projections, because they would indicate, for example, in this current situation, amount of precipitation we are likely to have, for example, in Nairobi. So, and in Nairobi, we already know the areas that are likely to suffer or be impacted by that kind of precipitation. So, if you look at what Kenya Red Cross does, is using that information to be able to push out messaging out there, especially to the members of public, through Red Cross volunteers and other platforms that we have, so that we can be able to work with the communities to reduce the impact of these floods on their livelihoods and their day-to-day lives. Yeah.
I want to hear this from Zipporah. I mean, you see, the issues of flooding, disasters, I mean, they're not new to us. I mean, we go back to many years. You know, we've had Mutongwe Ferry disaster, we've had the 1998 bombing, we've had the 2014 bombing at Westgate, the 2013 one. I mean, we can count so many catastrophes that we have faced as a country. And yet, when you look at volunteers, you know, it has always been a challenge. So how do we inculcate a culture of volunteerism in Kenya when it comes to disaster response?
Yes, thank you very much. First, I'd like to just start by saying we are enacted in the government laws under CAP 256, whereby our mandate is to ensure that, first of all, we prepare and sensitize communities on disasters, how to anticipate on disasters, how to anticipate on the risks, and how to respond and recover from that. So in CAP 256, under the Constitution of Kenya that was enacted in 1965, that's our objective. When you look at the objects of the National Society, Objective E and D, it talks about how do we then prepare our youths, how do we then prepare our communities and sensitize them to come to the Kenya Red Cross as a voluntary and to volunteer and give the expertise. Now, when we look at communities, the population of Kenya, and how we have our volunteers, we have over 300,000 volunteers around the country. 300,000
volunteers?
Yes, correct.
Working with the Kenya Red Cross?
With the Kenya Red Cross.
And
so,
out of a population of about 65 million people?
Correct. So,
is that a good number?
Well, it's not a good number when you look at the ratios.
What is the ideal number? The
ideal number should be over 3% of the population. So
3%.
Say 1.8 million. So we really try to sensitize the communities and the public to join the Kenya Red Cross.
Why the low numbers of volunteerism?
Well, there are no low numbers of volunteerism. It's just
you're talking about 300,000,
yes,
but the ideal number is supposed to be
correct.
Almost 4 times bigger
yes,
than, actually
yes,
more than 5 times bigger than that.
Because volunteerism, people don't understand it. Volunteerism should be an act of you giving without expecting any gain. So you find the population, say 80% of Kenyans are the youth. They're looking for employment. They're not looking for volunteerism. So that's a national gap and a challenge, because volunteerism you give without expecting any gain. So we really try to sensitize the communities and the public. Is it high time
then we flip the coin and introduce a small, a stipend for volunteerism? I know it happens in Britain. I know it happens in the US.
Let me take you back to why volunteerism. First, when you look at the Geneva Conventions, volunteerism is your act to give. and support. So it's the passion. And when you look at the
so
volunteers...
you're referring to the Geneva Convention of 1960s?
Yes, correct. And when you look at...
and we are in 2020.
Correct. And when you look at our CAP 256, that's the mandate. And when we recruit volunteers all over the world, they give freely without expecting any gain. And that is why we have passionate volunteers around the country who then go to support. So you'll find volunteers waking up early and, you know, going and responding in to the waters they don't expect, because we say they are priceless. Can you put a price tag?
So if I volunteer my time and my expertise, how do I pay my bills? You know, I can't live in a free house because I'm a volunteer.
That's why we have different types of volunteers in the organization. So you have volunteers who, for example, yourself, you can come give your expertise on different policies, on mentoring other volunteers on PR and communication, for instance. We have volunteers who come in as resource mobilizers. We have, and you've seen so many organizations bringing support to the Kenya Red Cross as volunteers. We have volunteers who then bring their force and their, you know, resources to supporting the most affected communities. And that's when you'll see volunteers going through the waters, volunteers during the Westgate attack. So it's, I can say, a snowball effect, because it's our mandate to even inculcate these values from the youngest. So you'll find the Junior Red Cross, the youth, now the volunteers, and there's a process before you start volunteerism. There is onboarding process where you come in, you
it's
join.
A process.
Correct. You come in, you join, you understand the Red Cross values and humanitarian's ideal. Then we put you under your skills and what you like to know. If you're a professional, then we put you under that skill set. So you grow your capacity build.
Very good.
The next thing after that, it's a whole process. There is now deployment. So we deploy you according to your skills. That's why you'll find volunteers going through the waters and doing aqua rescue. You'll find volunteers on fire. You'll find volunteers who just mentor kids in school. You'll find volunteers who donate and give foods to community. So it's grouped like that under deployment. Then we come back again to the drawing board. Like right now, what you're doing is going back and seeing how did we respond, what were the challenges, what are the gaps, where do we need to strengthen our skills. So they're taken through other more training to equip themselves, because we're preparing for, after now floods, definitely there'll be drought.
You're always waiting for the next disaster.
Exactly. So how do we make sure we then go to the next step of supporting the communities, because that's our mandate.
Very good. And I like the fact that, I mean, after you're through with one crisis, you're always waiting for the next crisis.
Correct.
You're always on the lookout for crisis.
Yes.
And volunteerism is also an act of compassion, passion, and what else?
Selfless
patriotism.
giving. Yes.
Very good. And I like the word patriotism. And I have always said, I mean, you've got to love your flag. We must love our flag, the national flag. We must love our country. And that's why volunteerism is very, very important, because it is an act of selfless love. Instead of you wasting your time doing nothing, you can always join various organizations that you can give back to the society. It's a noble idea. You're watching Inside Garment. We are live from Broadcasting House. Our conversation this afternoon is around disaster response and, of course, mitigation measures. We're in the company of great people from the Kenya Red Cross Society. They are taking us through the various stages of disaster response, and as well as management and coordination and the gaps that we need to fill. And the lady just next to my right hand is Christine Muriuki. She is in charge of Human Resource and Administration Manager at Kenya Red Cross Society. I want to hear this from you, Muriuki. If I want to join as a volunteer, what do I need to do, and what core competencies do I need to have?
Okay, so as you've had Zifora mention that we give at all levels. So your skills and competencies are welcome at any level. And where we start is by reaching out to us through our branches. you brought to Zipporah or to myself, even as an intern, and then we start from there. Yes.
So you can start as an intern, and then you grow. Do you employ people, by the way? These are employees, right?
Yes. Okay, and also you can start as an intern from school. We have internship programs for school-going kids or colleges, and then we also have volunteering, which is different. Maybe you're finished school or you're on a break. Even I, as Christine, as the HR and admin manager, I volunteer myself over the weekends. When there are floods, I will go out there and help distribute food items or any other items during my off day. So I would say volunteerism in Kenya Red Cross is all across.
It's all across.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I mean, you're watching Inside Garment. We're taking a short break. We'll come back with more conversations here on issues around flooding, climate change, and of course, rescue operations. A short break is necessary at this point.
Unaonanga kama sisi watu watchman, we are not learned people, ndio? Watchman na askari, yes, ama soja.
Askari gani?
Askari kanga mheshimiwa.
Akanitisha ndoo ya maji.
Akakuvisha wapi?
Kwa kichwa.
Ikiwa na maji.
Ikiwa na maji.
Mheshimiwa, naomba hii ndoo kwa maji chafu tumweke kwa kichwa tuone kaitadosea. Bahati si ni kweli?
Sikatai, si ndo?
Ya, nyumba ya mabati. Kukiwa na jua, unaweza lala kwa hiyo nyumba.
Sisi wanajaribu wanalala ndani ya bishini.
Wewe unatupotezea wakati. Unaweza maliza hiyo story yako. Kwenda. Enda.
Inside Garment, live from our national headquarters here at Broadcasting House in Nairobi. O'Brien Kimani is my name. We continue our conversation around disaster mitigation, response, as well as rescue operations. We're in the company of Kenya Red Cross Society's officials. They have been at the forefront of dealing with various calamities, from drought to flooding to, acts of terrorism. And we have seen them all. We're having a good conversation on how to ramp up our disaster response mechanisms. And that's why you can see all these items in the studio. That's right. They have taken us through what exactly is each item and how is it supposed to be applied in cases of disaster. I just want to now to talk to the scientists in the house. This is none other than Zachary Misiani. He's a climate scientist at the Red Cross, and I just wanted to hear from you, Athis. We know for sure that the world is becoming warmer, and the debate now is to how to maintain the global temperatures at below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Scientists are warning that if no urgent measures are put in place, the world is likely to hit the 2 degrees Celsius by the year 2050. It is going to be catastrophic. If we don't do anything here in Kenya, how is the situation likely to get worse?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. And it's unfortunate that if we cannot control or minimize what we are releasing to the atmosphere, unfortunately we are heading to the earth, which might be unconducive for us. So, for example, I would like also to thank the president. The other day, he announced that we were given a one-day public holiday for us to go and plant trees. So the issue of planting trees, the trees usually acts like a sinking mechanism, whereby it usually takes in a lot of the carbon monoxide which already we have released to the atmosphere. So it's for us to increase the area coverage in terms of the forest cover, so that we can be able to remove excessive gases which we are releasing to the atmosphere. And also we need also to think about the technology-wise issues. For example, we are using a lot of the machines which are using a lot of oil, that is the petroleum. So if in case we need to minimize the amount of the CO2, then we need to go to the e-mobility, whereby we can have like the buses or the car which are being as a source of energy is the electricity as compared to the use of the fuel. And also
fossil fuels.
Yeah, and also don't forget that the more we pollute is the more we develop. That is another big issue, that every country is trying to improve the lifestyle of the people. It is through that development whereby we can have good roads, beautiful houses, but remember, for us to have those buildings, we are polluting a lot. So there's issues of, do we need to develop, do we need to minimize what we are releasing outside? But if we go for the ideas of we want to develop as a country so that we can reach to the level of the developed countries, then we need to think about how best can we develop.
How sustainably?
Yeah, sustainably, something like that.
And I like the fact that you're bringing in the issue of sustainability, you know, yes, in our development. And yeah, I mean, let's face it, you know, when you look at the global green gas emission, and when you look at Africa where we are, our contribution is about 4% of green gas emission. The global north, where you have the industrialized nations, we're talking about the US of this world, China, Japan, yeah, they contribute about 90% of green gas emission. And when you look at the funding, the level of investment in developing countries, the level of funding that goes into climate change mitigations, it's less than 10% of what they give to the world. So how do we ramp up investment in renewable sources of energy, as well as enact policies that will help us drive sustainable development?
A nice question. Remember that from the global perception from the United States, of course, which is like a superpower, is trying to control everything. And also remember now the Chinese are coming up because of that level of the industrialization, whereby they are producing a lot so that they can also control the world market. Now it is us also to come up with the very strong bargaining power in terms of the loss and damage. Remember, whatever which is being released from the ETA we are talking about from the North America or from the Europe, it does not necessarily affect them, but that impact usually, unfortunately, comes to the less developed countries. It is us now to bargain, to have that power of bargain. For example, when we have like during the COP meetings, we need to have our representative who are very strong to bargain, to put our requirements and the demands on the table, so that we can also access those resources from the loss and the damage, so that if we access more resources, then we can be able also to mitigate some of the hazards which is already happening. Yeah, for example, of course we know most of the vulnerable community outside there, they depend so much on the charcoal burning as a source of energy. But you cannot stop that mama from either cutting a tree to make a charcoal. if you provide like a renewable source of energy, like a solar panel, something like that, then she cannot go to the forest to
cut down trees.
Yes, you see, for example, you cannot stop somebody to do something, but you are not giving that somebody another alternative option.
Very
so
good.
Because of the limited resources, now we need to strengthen our bargaining power. Yeah.
You know, at global climate change meetings, and one thing that we must remember is that back in 2015, the group of rich countries, they promised to fund developing countries with about $100 billion in climate change funding, what we refer to as the Paris Agreement. Today, we do not know how much has gone into this, and that's why Ms. Ian is bringing in the issue of collaborations and lobbying at global meetings. I want to hear this from Christine. I mean, you have a huge network of volunteers, employees, and so much at Kenya Red Cross, and you are the one in charge of developing and capacitating this human resource. How possibly do you do that?
Okay, so we have a network of branches across the country. So we are classified into 8 regions. Each region has a head of region, and also then we have county branches.
Which regions are these?
So we have Lower Eastern, that covers the Nairobi area, Kajiado. Then we have the Upper Eastern, the Isiolo part. They have the Central region. We have the West Kenya region. We have South Rift, North Rift, and Coast. Yes, and Northeastern. So there are 8 of them. So within that, those regions, then we have branch networks. Okay, we also have at another level the county coordinators. We call them the county coordinators. So they overlook all these interventions we see per county. That's why you'll see there's a disaster or something is happening and we are there. You wonder, we are in Nairobi. No, how did we get to Coast? How did we get to Tana River? Because we have interventions, or we have an organizational structure that touches in all the regions across the country and into the community through the county. Yes.
And I also want to hear things, I mean, so because, you know, the kind of work that you do, you know, requires massive investment in terms of infrastructure like this and resources. How do you manage to mobilize these resources?
Okay, so we have, as I say, we run as an organization also, so we have a resource mobilization team at all levels. So when I talk at the HQ level, the head of the region level, and also the county level, yes. So in various aspects. So then again, you will you'll appreciate that we have different departments, and they will resource mobilize at that level. So we have the climate team under ICHA, we will have the health team, we will have the disaster management team, we will have all those departments who will do their resource mobilization in their specific thematic areas to be able to come in and support as a whole. Yes.
And of course, you're also a member of the International Red Cross Society.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Which is based in Geneva.
Yes.
And do you receive funding from the international agency?
Yes, we do. I might not be able to speak on that right now, but yes, they do support.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
If you have people watching this broadcast and they are asking themselves, I mean, I would want to donate my time, I would want to donate my resources to the Kenya Red Cross Society. How do they do that?
Okay, so wherever you are within the country, walk to the Red Cross branch, and a county coordinator will receive you and take your details, get to know your skills, and know how you can support. In Nairobi, you can also walk into our branch or our headquarters, and we will be able to assist you. Yes.
And you're a non-profit organization.
Yes.
So your business is not to make profit.
Yes.
But to help in rescue efforts. I want to hear these now from Kevin. Kevin, when you look at the Public Financial Management Act of 2012, I mean, county government are supposed to allocate 2% of their budget to disaster response. They hardly do things, and even when they set aside, I mean, this money ends up being used for other things. So how do we ensure that we set resources at the county level, at the national government level, to deal with disaster response?
Yeah, thank you, Brian, for that question. I think the biggest challenge we have with disaster management, disaster response in the country is all tagged to the resources available to be able to respond to this. Of course, there's a fact out there that you cannot have sufficient resources to respond to all the needs that you have. But from where we sit, it is also our role as Kenya Red Cross, which we've been perfectly been executing with regards to advocating, working with these counties, showing them the kind of impact that is likely to be within their counties, and also because counties are also economic entities, so to say. So what kind of impact some of these disasters are likely to have on the economic growth. So through this advocacy action, we can be able to work on policy formulations that can be able to guide resource allocation and resource mobilization for disasters. This we've been able to do in several counties, providing both technical assistance, but also that support in terms of providing the right information for them to make the decision with regards to providing resources. The other challenge most of the time is around the priorities. So the counties also need to put lots of priorities with regards to disaster management. I know to some extent they have their recurrent operations that needs to be taken care of, but disaster also has a bigger impact on them as economic entities. So they also need to see how they need to prioritize resource allocation to, to disaster management.
I know, because of your position, you have worked with many counties. When you look at our counties, are they well positioned to deal with disasters? Can they handle these on their own?
Yeah, to be fair enough, yes, but remember, a disaster you cannot, because disasters are very complex. You need multiple skills, you need multiple resources and all that. So counties alone, as single entities, may not be able to respond effectively to any form of disaster. And this is the reason as to why we work with counties to strengthen their coordination mechanism, especially with regards to disaster management, disaster preparedness, and even recovering from those disasters. So counties may, especially around resource-wise, may not be very well oiled in terms of resources to effectively respond to emergencies. But with proper coordination mechanisms, then they can be able to bring different partners, including Red Cross, to work with them responding to those emergencies. Yes.
I'll come back to you, for more perspective, but I just want to bring Zipporah on board. I mean, you live in a country where 74% of the population is below the age of 45 years. What kind of outreach programs do you have targeting this cluster of population?
Yes. So with the Red Cross, we start with the youths. So we've divided the youth into two sections. We have the youth from 7 to 13, so the kids. Then we have 14 to 18. Then we have 18 to 30. So how we work is we make sure we embed all our programs from the school clubs. So you'll find us in most of the schools embedding our knowledge on first aid, on fire safety, on just humanitarian work, and tunasema samaki tumkunje kama ngali mbichi, so that's what we do. Then now the youth, then they graduate to the high school. We also do that, and then 18 to 30 in the university chapters and colleges, so we make sure that we disseminate our ideals in this category. Now, you'll also find on the 300,000 members and volunteers, about 80% of that population is the youth. So
80%.
Correct. So you'll find that they're the ones who are most of the times on the forefront giving support, because they already know the ideals and the do's and the don'ts of supporting, and they already understand the humanitarian work that we do. So it's easy for them to implement across these all counties. Yes.
And in terms of representation, I mean, which county has the biggest number of volunteers, and why?
Well, you'll also look at, first it's Nairobi. Nairobi has over 80,000 members and volunteers across. But also we look at the county population vis-a-vis the number. So that's how we usually look at the 3% that I was talking about. But Nairobi has the biggest number.
Can this be explained by the fact that, you know, you have, you know, the highest population,
Correct.
and also, you know, income levels and poverty levels are much lower in Nairobi? Can that be explained? Does that explain that?
We can say yes and no. We look at Nairobi because it's the epicenter of most of the disasters. So we can't say because of their economic levels, but we look at how much disasters we have and how much people then come out to support during this disaster, or even peace activities. Yes.
Which county has the the smallest number?
I wouldn't be able to say that. Well, just for data protection, but the counties that has the smallest number also, we just make sure we engage and bring people on board to then come support.
I respect your decision of, you know, not announcing the the county with the smallest number of volunteers, but why do they have this small number of volunteers? Is it lack of civic education? Is it what?
Well, no, because remember I'd mentioned it's the population size and the number of members and volunteers will then answer that. For example, if Nairobi we have over 6 million, then automatically you'll find more people coming. If in Tana River we have a population, say about 600,000, just a number, or 1.6, or Lamu, then correct, Lamu County, then you'll find a population of like maybe 20 or 2,000 or 3,000.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you, Zipporah, for saying so much without saying so much. I want to hear this from Messiani. You see, the government has come up with a very futuristic idea of planting 15 billion trees in the next 10 years. So you're talking about 1.5 billion trees every year. How important is this to us as Kenyans in mitigating future floodings, future droughts, future cyclones?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kivani, for that question. Remember, for example, there are some counties which are prone to the landslide. Remember, for example, if you have a ground whereby you have vegetation cover is very well. So, for example, when it's raining heavily, the forest or the vegetation cover usually reduces what we call the surface runoff. So through that, for example, if we plant more trees, we can minimize the surface runoff, which usually can facilitate what we call the landslide and also mudslide. Having said that, also don't forget that the forest cover also acts like windbreakers. Here in Kenya also we usually experience also very strong winds, which usually leads to some destruction of the houses, more so over the northern part of the country. So if we have a good forest cover, it can act also like a windbreakers to minimize even the soil erosion itself. Because if we have a lot of land which is open, we can have what we call the soil erosion. It can accelerate. Through that, we can also experience land degradation. But if a place is well covered, we can also minimize those issues. And also the trees also facilitate they can also change the local environment. What we can say that they can have what we call like macro climate environment. For example, if you have many trees in arid and semi-arid places, that climate of that place, which is usually very hot and dry, it can also change that environment. So through that, we can at least minimize the level of the occurrences of like the landslide, which already I've mentioned, protect the soil from the soil pollution, from air pollution, and also reduce the strength of the destructive winds. So I think planting trees is a good ideas. And also don't forget that we can also have what we call the fresh air from the trees, because it's just taking in the carbon monoxide and also gives out a lot of the oxygen, which is good for us. Yeah.
I mean, it's just goes on to say that I've heard people saying that we're likely to get into a long dry spell, whereby the country is likely to experience severe drought. How do we need to prepare for that?
We need to go back and to see the drought which affected us, that is from 2020 and 2022. Then we say what went wrong. So if you are able to understand where you are coming from, then you can be able to anticipate and prepare for the future. For example, if unfortunately we are heading to a drought situation, then we can maximize the available too much water which already we are having, because most of the rivers are full capacity, the dams already are full capacity. If we can have the more resources, then we can harvest as much as possible. These waters can be used during the dry period. Yeah, and also the prepositioning of some items and also resources, so that we can be able to effectively respond. But also it will depend on the magnitude of the droughts which might come going forward. Yeah.
Christine, I mean, for the people that are watching us and they're still in a crisis, they still need help, how do they reach out to Red Cross without risking their lives to work?
Okay. Yes, so we have a toll-free line, 1199.
1199.
Yes, that you can call directly. We have a team that's seated 24 hours. Our EOC, Emergency Operations Coordination Team, that will receive that call. We also have our website where you can get the different channels via email. We have our social media pages where you can reach us. So yes, this is how they can reach us.
I want you to repeat that number again.
So we have a toll-free line, 1199.
That is 1199.
Yes.
It is toll-free.
Toll-free.
And it will just go through.
Yes, it
and then
goes
you have somebody
through.
on the other end receiving
Yes,
the call.
we have a team on the other end 24 hours, and that is how actually we are able to respond. Apart from the climate team watching the climate or monitoring what is going on, then we also get calls directly from that, and we are able to respond. And or help out, and not only disaster management, even mental health. You can call in the line and you will be directed to a team where, if you're having issues, they can be able to sit down and take you through any trauma. Yes.
What kind of information should you have, before you call that number? I know you should be in a position to say your name,
yes,
your location.
Yes.
What other information should you have?
Yes, and maybe give a brief description of what is going on around you, so that they can be able then to alert the teams that they're supposed to support you. Okay, or direct you to someone who may be able to talk to you further. Yes.
And there are also government-sponsored numbers, and I'm about to give you these numbers. They are very critical. You need to have them. On top of the Red Cross number, which is 1199. Did I get it right?
Yes.
You also need to have these numbers. 999. That is 999. That's the old number that we have always known. 999. That is 999. If you are in distress, you can just call this number, and there will be somebody to respond. The other number is 112. Yes, 112. And then finally, you have the 911. If you are in distress, and you don't need to be facing floods for you to call these numbers, okay? Any disaster. It could be fire, it could be drought, it could be floods, it could be a house that is collapsing or something like that, or maybe you're under attack by criminals. These are the numbers that you need to call, and you're going to receive help. Zipporah, is Kenya Red Cross a government-owned institution?
No. The Kenya Red Cross is a humanitarian organization formed again under CAP 256 of the laws of Kenya. We are auxiliary to the government, both the national government and the county government. Yes.
So when you say you're an auxiliary to the government, what exactly do you mean? Do you mean you respond to the government, or what is the nexus between you and government?
We complement the efforts of the government. Yes.
You complement the efforts of the government. We know that in this country, we don't just have the Red Cross. We have the St. John's Ambulance. We have is it the Red Crescent? Not the Red Crescent. What do you call?
The IFRC, International Federation of the Red Cross. Red
Yes.
Crescent.
So how do you work together? Because you can't work in isolation. It's not a competition.
Yes. We have to collaborate, as my colleagues had mentioned earlier. The IFRC, International Federation of the Red Cross, Red Crescent, comes in to support the Red Cross or any other national society during times of natural disasters. The floods, the droughts, that's when they come in. We have the ICRC, International Committee of the Red Cross. They come in during violence, conflicts, or any other volatile situations that come in.
And as an organization, you accept donations in cash or in other form. For people who are watching this broadcast and they would want to donate, maybe bedding materials, money, boats, helicopters, how can they do that?
They can do that first with the network of the 47 counties. They can reach out from wherever they are to our county offices. They'll be received, and the donations will be received. At the headquarters, yes, you can come, bring your donation, then that can be given to the affected communities. Yes.
And because you live in a country where technology, you're so intertwined with technology, must I go to the county headquarters for me to donate? Why can't I do that from the comfort of my room?
Yes, if you like to donate in cash, we have the pay bill number, that's 10,000. Account number or the name is donation. Then you can send in your funds from the
So the donation line,
yes, donation,
10,000.
Yes,
it's
the
not
pay
that you
bill
have to donate 10,000
No,
shillings.
the pay bill number is 10,000. The account name is donation. Yes.
And 10,000 is 10, then 000. That is 10,000 for you. It's not a big number. So just go to that line, donate whatever amount of money.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
50 shillings?
Correct.
1,000?
Any
20 bob?
supports will go back to the communities.
It will go back to the community.
Yes.
Very good. I want to hear this from you. Sorry, I keep on forgetting your name. Kevin. Oh, yes. Kevin, I want to hear from this. I mean, if you travel to the developed economies, and not just developed, I also want to take you to, for example, South Africa or Egypt. When you use their major highways, you see centers for rescue operations. You're not likely to miss an ambulance, patrolling that highway just in case of anything. Why don't we have that kind of a system here in Kenya?
Yeah, and thank you for that, O'Brien. Maybe also for your information and also members of the public, that is also happening in Kenya.
It is happening?
Yes, because Kenya Red Cross, through the E-Plus ambulance services, has prepositioned ambulances across the country. So you can be able to, through that 1199, you can be able to request for an ambulance and it will be able to come and assist you.
Is it free?
Yes, depending on the emergency, is free. Yes.
What kind of emergency is free and which one is not?
So if, let's say, distress call, then that would
What is that?
Distress call is maybe there is what we normally call mass casualty incidents. So for example, there is a road traffic accident and several people are injured, several people are in distress, then a Red Cross ambulance will definitely be available to provide.
Or maybe a house has collapsed.
Or a house has collapsed. So any form of distress where we have multiple people that are injured and need medical assistance.
If my house is on fire?
If your house, Red Cross does not provide fire services, but even if you call the 1199, Red Cross EOC, which is the Emergency Operations Center, can be able to link you to, let's say if you're in Nairobi, to Nairobi Fire Department, and they will be able to come to you. Yes.
So you also do that?
Yes.
So getting back to my original question, so you have ambulances, you know, along major highways and byways.
Yeah.
Do you have trauma centers?
So along the major, especially from Nairobi back to Mombasa, we have, and you can be able to see them on the road. You would see prepositioned containers, 20-foot containers. They may be for Red Cross or any other emergency medical service provider who are prepositioned along those roads. I would say they are not sufficient, so to say. And then possibly...
How many, for example, do you have along you know, the stretch between Nairobi and Mombasa, which is almost 500 kilometers?
I don't have the numbers, but I know we must have something in Titwandei, Emali, yeah, because through our road safety program and also through our risk reduction program that we used to have along that, or rather in Makueni County, which is along that route. Yeah.
Because we're coming to the close of this conversation, and I want to bring Vincent Ochieng so that you know, he can respond to one or two questions. I just want you to come over, Vincent, to the set. We've seen a situation whereby people during the floods, you know, people are attempting to cross flooding roads. How are they supposed to do that? I mean, wait a minute. I'm going home, and you know, and the bridge, you know, is flooded or is flooding. What am I supposed to do?
In most cases, I know most people are always in rush, and there are those that are always panicking whenever this kind of situation happens. Most of the time, we always request that people should calm down first. Because whenever you find out that water has covered the road, and that mostly we estimate 12 inch of the tires, it's always risky for you to...
12 inches, can you show us?
I can't estimate really in terms of the inches, but in terms of your tires, provided it has covered almost half of your tire, it's risky for you to
use a vehicle to cross.
Yes.
But what about walking?
Also in walking, because most of the times, even for our trained rescue divers, you find out that most of the time they maybe try crossing using maybe the ropes, because it is flash flood. You might not even estimate the magnitude or the current weight of the flash flood, so it might carry you away. So most of the time,
even motorbikes.
Even motorbikes. You have seen.
What if a situation whereby, I mean, we fill the car with loads or people, it becomes heavy, and then we cross. Can that work?
Most of the times when you see this water that has covered mostly the roads, provided there is any item, whatever the magnitude of the weights, it has to float. You have seen the ships, they are over the water. However, the inches of the water level, it has to carry you away. So you are requested to remain wherever you are. Don't cross over the other side until the water level comes
Don't do
down.
like what you're seeing on your screen. That is very dangerous.
Yes.
Wait for water levels to subside, and then you can cross. What about a situation whereby, like, you know, I'm seeing like those people are holding hands. Is it okay?
It's still not okay.
It's not okay.
Yeah. First of all, you can see they don't even have any PFDs. Those are
What are
life
those?
jackets. In most cases, you've heard that even divers are taken away with water. They are swept away with water, and we are having cases of people still missing. So don't become a hero.
What if I'm a good swimmer?
That's why I've said even divers, professional divers, have been swept away by the water. So the only time that you can be able to cross is when we have these rescue divers around, and they have instructed you in terms of how you can be able to move to the other side where there is safety.
Before I let you go, in the case of a situation whereby I was driving, flash floods, I find them on the way, my car is swept, and I have the windows closed, how am I supposed to behave?
Most of the time, we always request you not to panic first. Huh?
Oh, please, is that possible?
I know it's not possible
how
because
realistic is that?
in the long run, I know most people panic. But we know most of our vehicles are fitted in with these items that you can be able to use, because in most cases during floods, all the windows are closed and it's hard for you to escape from it. So for your first impression, in terms of you are trapped within that vehicle, it's easier for you to use items such as your headrest and
so you remove
the edge.
your headrest?
Yes. Hit the edge of the window and the glass will fall down automatically and you'll be free. And when you're free, most of the time you're requested to go above the vehicle where it's still safe for you to be able to be carried with the vehicle along. And mostly you look at the edges where there is maybe a branch or maybe something that can be able to tag you along to move outside the vehicle. Because most of the people I've seen, they try to save their vehicle but not save themselves. Now
So the rule number one is, first of all, you save yourself.
Save yourself.
Even if you are in the company of your spouse or of your child, the rule number one is, first of all, to save yourself.
Yes,
and then you can try to save the others.
Mostly look for the best way to be able to escape for the rest of the people who you have within the vehicle. Yes.
Are you supposed to cross a swollen river with your windows up or down if you're driving?
A flooded river, we insist, no crossing. However much you have a trailer, a rescue vehicle, you have any kind of mobility that you want to use to move past even a boat capsizes.
Yeah.
You have seen most cases. So we are not advising anyone to cross any kind of flowing water, either above the river, either across the road. You should not cross. Just don't.
But for example, a river like that one is okay for you to cross?
In most cases, you are asked to first hold on, because in this kind of situation, you find out that the river is still bulging. It's level. So most of the times you'll find out that there are roads that have collapsed.
Yeah.
So you are asked first to maybe survey the road. Is it strong, and the bridge, is it strong enough to hold you to pass through? And mostly we use local administration who are well conversant with their area. So they'll let you know that you should not cross that bridge. It's not safe for you, so you should not go through it.
Very good.
Yes.
Gentlemen and ladies, as we come to the end of this conversation, I just want to hear from you. I mean, we are in the process of formulating our 2024-2025 budget. And I would want to hear from you, each one of you, what kind of allocation should go towards dealing with disaster response in this country? And I want to start with Ms. Yani.
Yeah, I think under the law we need to have like 2% of the budget to go to the disaster risk reduction or the preparedness. But sometime, unfortunately, you might find like because of the competition of the resources, then we usually miss that budget. But if the resources were enough, then we can go to the even 2.5 of the budget, because going forward we are likely to see the magnitude of the disasters and also the frequency increase. So we need also to increase that budget allocation.
Very good.
Yeah.
What about Christine? What item would you want to see added in the national budget to deal and to mitigate cases of disaster?
Okay. More of training also on all multi-purpose agencies and their resources to be able to be ready at all times. So I think capacity building of our youths, even from the schools. Yes, we incorporate that in our schools from the early age all the way.
Very good.
Yes.
So you'd want to see an aspect of capacity building within our budget.
Yes.
Very good. Zipporah, what about you?
I'd like to see an aspect of us embedding and working very closely with communities to prepare, respond, anticipate, and also recover from disasters. So if we have policies all over the counties, and these policies then are implemented to our communities, then we'll be able to curb disasters. Yeah.
So what kind of allocation would you want to see?
Well, if we have policies first and the structures and guidelines formulated, then about 2%, 3%, that will be ideal.
2 to 3% of our national budget going towards disaster mitigation and management as well.
Yes.
Very good. What about Mr. Kevin?
Thank you. So I think even as we work towards 2% allocation of the national budget, I would also be glad to see also at the sector level, within the health sector, within, these other government sectors, also them providing that allocation, 2% or more towards disaster management, because disasters are a multi-sectoral, and we need as much resources to be able to take care of this. Yes.
I'm also going to ask this to Vincent, so I want him to join us here, because I also want to hear from him. I mean, he looks like he's a gadget man. So in terms of budgetary allocations, what do we need to buy in order to deal with disaster response in this country?
I might not quote what needs to be bought for that level, because we're also looking at our third world countries, or the developed countries.
Developing country.
Yeah, because we're still a developing country. But going by the resources that are basically needed in terms of the nature of the disasters we experience, we might not quote, but these allocations, just as Zipporah has mentioned, needs to be streamlined to our community level, and maybe strengthening them at that level to be able to manage themselves at their level before even having the agencies coming on board. They can be able to manage themselves. Yes.
I know, the public consultation and stakeholders engagement is currently ongoing on the 2024-2025 budget. And the aspirations of the public are going to be captured in that document. And, if you are to meet that team, the budget committee team, and if they were to ask you, what do we need, how do we need to equip the National Disaster Management Unit to deal with various disaster that are going to face us in the future, what items would you recommend?
Now, this brings on board, you know, we have the multi-agency, and now we have the multi-sectoral aspect, because disaster is not oriented on one direction. We have the health aspects, we have the youth, we have the agricultural aspect, and these, you find at times when disaster occurs and we are overwhelmed, all these sectors are affected. So these people are brought on board, and that's why, you know, I cannot equate in terms of how much is needed, because all these heads brought on board in one table.
Do you think we need helicopters?
These are all the equipments that are needed.
Do we have them? You know, in sufficient numbers?
We might not say as per Red Cross we have helicopters, or maybe this agency has helicopters or planes or any
But we need them, right?
But we need them.
So it would be very good to buy them.
Yes.
What about life-saving boats?
These ones are needed.
They are needed. So we should also invest more in life-saving boats.
Yes.
What about rescue and shelter-in centers? Where, I mean, I've seen a situation whereby people are being told to evacuate from their houses or from where they live and go to higher grounds. But, you know, the higher ground could be a forest. Okay? So would you also anticipate a situation or advocate for a situation whereby we have shelter-in centers being set up by the government, complete with lounging facilities and food and so much? Yeah,
these are some of the key aspects of disaster operations, and these cannot be left out. And with the support, as you've mentioned, with the government, we cannot deny them bringing on board this aspect and have these rescue centers whenever disasters occur. We don't have that challenge of hosting our vulnerable community or those people who need our support at that time of need.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good. People, do we wrap it at this point? Are we comfortable with what we've discussed?
Yes.
Yes. Very good. I mean, you've been watching this special edition of Inside Government, and our conversation today has been around disaster mitigation, management, as well as response measures. And we have been in the company of great team from the Kenya Red Cross Societies, helping us, you know, and guiding us on how to wade through this issue of disaster, bearing in mind that we are currently going through one. You have heard it from the team. My name is O'Brien Kimani. We do this every Friday at 2:30 in the PM. Until Friday next week, you have yourself a great afternoon. Asante.
Mpenzi mtazamaji wa runinga unayoipenda ya KBC Channel 1.
Over the years, we have been at the forefront of broadcast trends to bring you the best of news, entertainment, and sports. You have the power to take your favorite broadcaster to the top. KBC Channel 1 has been nominated in the TV Station of the Year category in the 7th edition of the Kuza ICT Awards.
Favorite TV station.
To vote for KBC via SMS, simply use the short code 15601 and follow the prompts at no cost. Or visit www.kuzaawards.co.ke and follow the registration instructions to vote. KBC Channel 1. Kenya's watching.
Life is about balance, about give and take. and forests give us so much. They purify our water. They clean our air. They fight climate change by capturing carbon. They give us food, life-saving medicines, and they improve our well-being. But our forests are vulnerable. They are endangered by fires, pests, droughts, and other threats. That is why we need to look after them. We need to give, not only take. Healthy forests for healthy people.
Growing at least 15 billion trees by the year 2032.
Despite the global action that is being taken around climate change, from our own space as a country, we have the initiative to grow 15 billion trees. And this aims to increase the tree cover from where we stand now at 12.13% to 30%.
Let's embrace what the government is saying to plant 5 billion trees in the next 5 years. And as a bank, we are going to partner with the government to plant those trees. The bank has donated 35 million trees with the help of our group CEO, Dr. James Mwangi. And the bank is really pushing for climate change and also to keep the country green. Murang'a County, we are willing to donate 3 million trees. So far we have planted 300,000.
Kwa sababu tukitaka kuchangia kazi ya rais, kazi yangu haiwezi kwenda vizuri kama tumeangamisha mazingira. Na kwa hivyo tungetaka kuwa laini mstari ya mbele kuchangia urudishaji, ujengaji wa mazingira ndio tupate maji ya kutosha ya kuletea wananchi. Na kwa ile kazi ya rais ya miti bilioni 5, ministry yetu na wale ambayo wote tunafanya kazi na wao, sisi tutafanya hii kazi kama mashindano, ndio tupate kuwa ni wale watakuwa laini ya kwanza kuwa ni sisi tumepanda miti mingi sana, ndio turudishe mazingira pale inatakikana.
The previous months, we have also planted almost 8,000 across the county. This is in accordance with the presidential directive which was issued last year. We started in Mumbaga in Busia, that is in Bunyala, and we were able to plant over 5,000 tree seedlings. Climate change has sorely affected us. It has brought a drought. It has brought a lot of human sufferings.
Climate change effects are here with us, and one of the mandate of Kenya Forest Service is to ensure that we mitigate the effects of climate change, and one way is by planting trees.
Anza live kwa hii mchanga. Alafu kisha raise base hivi, unaiweka hivi mpaka inakaa mpaka inafika kwa root collar. Sasa ndio mchanga inarudishwa.
Lengo la mradi huu ni kuhakikisha kwamba tumeweza kurudisha hali ya environment jinsi ilivyokuwa hapo awali, ili wakulima waweze kupata mapato wanapofanya kazi. Tunajua kwamba tunapozidi kuwa na watu wengi, watu wanapozidi kuongezeka katika nchi, watu huwa wanaondoka kutoka kwa zile nchi nzuri wakaenda kwa nchi ambazo zimedhoofika, kama vile ile inaitwa Hanging Valley hapa Elgeyo Marakwet, na kule kwa escarpment ambapo hakufai kuwa kuna limwa, lakini kwa sababu ya msukumo wa maisha wanajikuta pale. Kwa hivyo hatusemi tu miti ipandwe kwa sababu ya mazingira peke yake, bali ipandwe kwa ajili ya manufaa ya mkulima, na katika yale manufaa ya mkulima basi ulimwengu wote unaweza kupata manufaa kwa sababu ya mazingira ambayo tumezindi kufanya bora.
All trees, both fruit and indigenous and even exotic trees, seedlings, please buy it from Elgeyo Marakwet totally. We've done a lot of disservice to our society, our environment. I'm not saying 100%, but quite a number of us have participated. The only way to salvage is to bring in a new generation that will embrace environment. Lakini tukifundisha watoto wetu waweze kusoma wakielewa kwamba masomo yao ni environment ni part of that education, we will change this nation.
Tunaweza kupanda miti kwa wingi ili tuweze kukabiliana na makali ya tabia nchi, ama kwa Kiingereza inaitwa climate change. NEMA iko katika kaunti ya Garissa na itashirikiana na idara zote za serikali kupitia uratibu wa county commissioner ili tuhakikishe kuwa zile sheria zote za mazingira zinaweza kutekelezwa na washikadau wote, wakiwa wafanyabiashara, wakiwa wakulima, wakiwa wafugaji, na ikiwa kwa wananchi wote, kwa sababu mazingira safi ni jukumu la kila mmoja, na pia kila mtu akona katika katiba yetu, kila mtu akona uhuru kuishi katika mazingira safi na mazingira ambayo hayana tatizo lolote, na kila mtu pia akona jukumu kuhakikisha kuwa akona responsibility ya kuhakikisha kuwa anahifadhi mazingira kutoka nyumbani kwako, kutoka mahali unapofanya kazi, na hata mahali ambapo unafanya biashara yako.
Tunajaribu kadri ya uwezo wetu, tunafanya patrols. Niko na kikosi hapa ambao wamehitimu na hiyo kazi ya control mambo ya uchumaji wa makaa, wanaijua vizuri sana. Kwa hiyo tuko na program ya kufanya patrols, tunashika watu na kuwashtaki, na pia sio kushika na kushtaki peke yake, huwa tunafanya baraza, tunafanya uhamasisho. Leo pia kushika mtu na kumshtaki si dawa, unakaa naye, unaongea naye, unamweleza, anakuelezea shida zake. Kama ni mambo ya uchumi, tunampea njia badala za kutafuta hela.
We have adopted a number of forests to participate in the reforestation. And specifically in the coast region, we have adopted the Mombasa area, Kilifi area, Tana River, and Lamu. And in Kilifi, we have adopted roughly about 4,044 hectares mangrove area. And we are carrying out restoration at an average of not less than 1,200 propagule per person per day, and on an average of 4,000. To date, we have planted 17 million propagules in Kilifi area, and generally in the entire coast belt, we have planted 43 million propagules. And our work is to carry out reforestation through the community, whereby we employ to reforest or we employ to restore.
Uharibifu ulikuwa katika hali ya juu sana, kwa vile uwanja huu mnavyoona na kule ndani kulikuwa hakuna mikoko. Watu walikuwa wamekata kwa sababu ya kujenga, kwa sababu ya kuuza makaa, kwa vile hawana kazi yoyote wanaofanya. Wanachukua hii kama kazi ama kipata uchumi kwa nini yao, kwa maisha yao. Lakini sasa tunaona ile community imeletwa pamoja na KFS na mashirika zingine tumekuja pamoja ili tuweze kusaidia. Sasa kuwasaidia ni ile tunawapatia an economic activity kama ile kuweka beehives, nyuki, ili wapate kupata asali. Ile asali wata harvest miaka na miaka, kwa hivyo watapata mapato kidogo ya kuwaendelesha kwa maisha yao.
Mangrove ndio ni miti, lakini sio miti ya kawaida. Kwa hivyo tunaweza sema katika mangrove tunapata ile mbao, tunaweza tukapata kuni, tunaweza pata miti ya kujengea, lakini kuna vitu vingine zaidi. Hapa kwenye mikoko ndio tunapata samaki wanazalia. Pale mkokoni pia kuna wanyama wengi ambao wanaishi mle mkokoni. Kwa hiyo unapata ukiharibu mikoko, utapoteza hiyo mazingira ya mikoko, na kisha pia wale wanyama watapoteza makao.
Planting a tree is therefore the first and most critical step in our journey towards ecological restoration, resilience enhancement, and sustainable development. Planting a tree should be the most urgent task for each one of us today and every other day. Planting trees has to be the project of the highest importance every day throughout the rainy season and for the rest of our lives. To change the world today, plant a tree, then do it again. and again and again. There is no need to stop because there will never be a time in our life when trees do not make sense or matter. There will be no reason to stop because the government of Kenya has launched a program to distribute 1,000 tons of seedlings of seeds to 18 seed centers established by the Kenya Forest Research Institute throughout the country. The centers will produce 15 billion seedlings between now and the year 2032.
My office has committed to planting and growing 500 million trees out of the President's target of 15 billion trees by 2032. Professor Wangari Maathai would say, when we plant trees, plant the seeds of peace and seeds of hope. We also secure the future for our children.
In the name of Jesus Christ, Mungu anatarajia ukanyange hatua mbele. Wengine wametawaliwa na uchawi, wakati wao umefika. Wewe umenitazama siku ya leo. Neema na kibali cha Bwana kikawe juu ya maisha yako.
Tukipata 100k, yani tukipata kama leo, tutaifanyia kazi. After Culture Festival, maybe we will be double profit on it. Kama ikiwa tutapata 100,000, basi tuweze tukatengeneza 200,000 within 1 month ama 1.5.
The 100,000, I start my business, inshallah, kuendeleza. Yeah, I am art, by the way. I used to drawing something, hata kukata vitu, kutengeneza decoration. Yeah, you know. Yeah. So itakuwa the big chance to do something, si ndio? Yeah, to niendeleze maisha na maisha itasonga.
Mimi nitainvest kununua tools za kutengeza chombo. Kama mimi ni dao maker, lakini natumia local tools kutengeneza hii. Ikiwa nitakuwa na electrical tools, nitatengeneza faster. Kazi yangu itaiboresha vizuri zaidi kuliko kutumia mkono na take too longer kwa na exercise.
Kipata 100,000, naongeza pikipiki ya pili ili nipate kuangalia familia kwa uzuri.
Nitainua biashara yangu. Kama sasa napika nyumbani, nikipata 100,000 nitafungua kama hoteli. Ukishafanya hiyo biashara sasa, waweza ukaenda kama benki ukachukua mkopo, ukapewa, kilipa vizuri, utapewa taregesho, utapewa tena, nitapata 100,000 hata 200,000.
Nitafurahi sana. Nitajaribu pia kuinvest katika kazi yangu, kufanya mambo mazuri kama kurembesha kazi yangu, kutafuta zitu za kunisaidia kama life jacket. Ni big challenge kwa our marine security. Unaona? Ku maintain na dau pia ni ngumu sana, so it need a lot of work na yani itatusaidia katika pesa. Mambo hiyo ni mambo mengi sana ambayo itatusaidia sisi, maisha yangu mimi na familia yangu, na wale wote ambao wananitegemea mimi.